guys, it's Cassie and welcome back to my channel. So 7 weeks ago today, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. So I'm here today with my postpartum update, just kind of talking about everything that my body has gone through in the past 7 weeks. So I'm going to be talking about things such as kind of how my body looks and how much weight I lost, whether or not I tore during delivery, and things like that. So if you're interested in hearing about my postpartum update, then just keep on watching. Alright, so it's been 7 weeks since I gave birth to Camden. I can't believe it's been that long and that he's 7 weeks old, and that 7 weeks ago I was looking totally different than I am now. So for those of you that don't know, Camden was accidentally born at home, so if you haven't seen that video, I definitely recommend you go check it out. He was born at home, and since he was born at home, we didn't have to go anywhere. Luckily, I only had a 2nd-degree tear, so they were able to stitch me up at home. My bleeding slowed down pretty much right away. So I was able to stay and recover in my own bed, which after all of that, if I would have delivered him at home and then I turned around and had to go to the hospital because of bleeding, I would have been pissed. So I did have a 2nd-degree tear. I didn't really notice it being that painful, to be honest, like having stitches and everything down there. So the day that I gave birth, the midwives told me to have a bath, and they gave me like this little tea bag that had all these different herbs and stuff in it. And I just kind of soaked in there for a little bit, and then they left me with one as well to have later on in the week. And so the first time I went to the bathroom, and obviously getting into the bath that first time, like it stung, it hurt a little bit. But other than that, I found no issues sitting down. Like, I don't know, somebody had said to me that they knew people that had to sit on like donut-shaped pillows after they'd given birth, and their stitches were really bothering them. But to be honest, after the first few times I went to the bathroom, I didn't even notice. Camden is right here, and he does make a lot of noise, so we're probably going to hear him throughout the video. In terms of physically how I felt after birth, I was obviously very tired because like my body had just went through a lot, and I'd only gotten about an hour and a half sleep the night before I went into labor, because I went into labor at 2 in the morning. So I was very tired, and I was obviously starving. Once everything had like settled down and, you know, he was good, I was good, they kind of did all the testing and everything, and the midwives had left, I was like, oh my god, I need to eat. Because for those of you that have watched my labor and delivery story, you know that my Kraft dinner that I wanted 10 minutes before I all of a sudden had to start pushing, I never quite got to have it. My Kraft dinner sat in a bowl at the entryway table for hours, and I never got to eat it. So I did end up getting pizza, which was very nice. And I was so hungry after all of that. And I was obviously very tired, but I left my house on day 3. I went down back to my hometown to visit some of my immediate family, just because I'm the only one that lives in the city that I live in, and it was just easier for me and Camden to go down to see everybody. And I was feeling really good. I did have a hard time getting like out of bed or up off of the couch, and it was more because I had a bruised tailbone, and my midwife had warned me that with babies that are born really fast, that's something that happens. And like it was painful. Like I felt like I fell down a flight of stairs, and so that made it hard to kind of get up and down. My stomach didn't really bother me, like I said, the stitches didn't really bother me, and I was just very weak. Something that had happened almost immediately after delivery, or I guess the next day I should say, was I completely lost my appetite. So when I was pregnant, I was eating double pretty much, and I know they say you shouldn't eat for 2, but I had, like, I'm not kidding, I had double the appetite. I was so hungry all the time, and I didn't really want to deprive myself because I was hungry, so I allowed myself to eat, and we'll get into that's probably why I gained so much weight later. But the day after I gave birth, that appetite was gone, and I'm back to eating how I ate pre-pregnancy. In the beginning, I had to like remember to eat because I was just so busy staring at my beautiful baby and, you know, taking care of him and whatever. I was forgetting that, you know, eating was important. Luckily, my mom was here and she was kind of able to help with that. Yeah, so I went out on day 3, but it ended up being, I think, a little bit too much for me, because the next day I was passing lots and lots of blood clots, and my midwife was like, that's your body's way of telling you that you need to slow down and you've done way too much. So I did end up being instructed to stay in bed and not to leave. After that, I felt good, and that's why I wanted to leave the house, and I wanted to go see people, and I wanted to show off my baby. Yes, I was showing you off, but I probably should have waited a few more days, like in hindsight when I look back. Emotionally, I'm feeling really good. I had one rough day with breastfeeding when my milk was slow to come in, and I just felt like a failure and I cried a lot. But then I ended up realizing later that it was the side effect of my medication. So I take an SSRI daily, and when I was at my family doctor's renewing my prescription recently, she was like looking up the percentage that gets passed along when you breastfeed, and she was like, oh, like that was a side effect of your medication, that, you know, there's a proper term for it, I don't remember what it was, but she was like, the milk is slow to come in. And I was like, that would have been really nice to know, you know, when I was trying to breastfeed and that was happening and I was struggling. So it'd be good to know for next time. That would have saved probably a lot of heartache, but I mean, you live and you learn, right? But other than that, I love being a mom. It is a weird adjustment being home all the time, and, you know, none of my friends in the city that I live in have babies. That's been an adjustment, but once Camden gets his 2-month shots, we're gonna join a couple different mommy and me classes and groups, and I'm gonna try and meet other moms that have babies, because Connor and I really need to have parent friends because we don't have very many. You know, it's getting a little lonely in that sense, but I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I have a plan, and I just need him to be immunized and protected first. I bled for about 5 weeks. Around the 5-week mark, the blood had completely stopped. So it was pretty heavy the first few days, but honestly, it wasn't as heavy as I imagined. Like, I think I imagined it to be a lot worse, because, you know, everybody talks about wearing the diapers or whatever, and I was just wearing an overnight pad and it was fine. I didn't find that I needed to change it more frequently or anything. TMI, but I mean, if you're watching a postpartum video, you just kind of know what you're getting yourself into. And then, you know, it got lighter and lighter and lighter, and then eventually it was just, probably for the last week or two, it was just spotting. Like, it was nothing bad at all. Your first bowel movement after having a baby is petrifying, and yeah, it was painful. I probably hated that more than like pushing him out. I'm not even kidding. It was not fun at all. During that time that I went back to visit my family, we drove, obviously, and it was my mom was driving and I was in the front with her, and Camden was in the backseat, and I was so anxious being on the road. I was nervous of other cars. I was nervous because I couldn't see him. I didn't know if he was okay. I didn't know if he was still breathing. My mom was like, do you want to sit in the back seat? And I was like, no, because when it's just the two of us, I need to be able to drive him around, and I don't want to be limited to my house. So I forced myself to sit through that first car ride. It was really hard, but he was okay. When I drove with him for the first time, it was fine. And I have actually made the drive back home by myself, and I didn't anticipate that I would be doing that anytime soon, but Camden does a really good job in the car. I have one of those mirrors so I can see him. It was just that first initial car ride, I was so nervous. If car got too close to me, I was like, oh my God, you know. It was rough, and that was not something I was expecting. And I think partially because I was expecting to be able to drive home from the hospital, which is a 10-15 minute drive, and I didn't get to do that. So my first time in a car with him was for an 1.5 hour long drive. Like, that probably played a part as to why I was a little bit nervous. All right, so now to the fun part, my body update, I guess. So I did take some pictures last week when I was 6-week postpartum that I will insert somewhere. So I was 37 weeks and 4 days pregnant when I gave birth. And I will insert some pictures of what I looked like, because I was very round. I had a very large tummy, and I gained in total 45 pounds during my pregnancy, which is over the recommended amount. My doctor told me 25 to 35 is what I should gain, and I ended up gaining 45. And there's probably a couple reasons for why I gained so much weight. I mean, like I said, I was eating twice as much, but not because I had the mentality of, oh, I'm eating for two. It was because I was genuinely so much more hungry, and I allowed myself to eat. I also didn't exercise throughout my pregnancy, and it was because after my miscarriage, I was so petrified of doing something that would harm the baby and cause me to have a second miscarriage that I didn't allow myself to work out. And I was also super exhausted during my first trimester. I did lots of walking and hiking and things like that in Europe, and then I came back and I was 20, and I had, you know, the energy to work out, but I was 20 weeks pregnant and I wasn't about to start a workout routine and start hitting the gym. I was very active throughout my pregnancy in the sense that I was served and I bartended up until I was 33 weeks pregnant. And so I was walking everywhere. Connor and I would go for walks when we could. So I was active in that sense, but I just wasn't doing any additional working out. That probably had something to do with it, in combination with, you know, this increased appetite that I had. At 1 week postpartum, I had lost 20.2 pounds. At 2 weeks postpartum, I had lost 24.6 pounds. At 3 weeks postpartum, I had lost 27.6 pounds. At 1 month postpartum, I'd lost 27.8 pounds. And then I currently have lost 31.6 pounds. As you can tell, a lot of the weight was lost kind of in the beginning, and then once I hit the 3 week mark, it slowed down. And so I have about 10-ish pounds to go. And I think I'm gonna have to work it off. And I'm not entirely sure if it's ever gonna go away, to be honest. Something like my butt and my thighs got bigger during pregnancy. I fit into most of my pre-pregnancy clothes, but I don't fit in my jeans, and some of my shirts I find are harder to fit in, but it's because of my boobs, not because of my stomach. So, you know, there's that. I was cleared to start working out again at my discharge appointment, but I did have diastasis recti pretty badly during my pregnancy, so I will be seeing a physiotherapist in about 2 weeks to make sure that everything's healing properly, get some exercises that will help, you know, kind of make sure that everything goes back to normal. So I will be starting like a light cardio routine and things like that and ease my way back into it. I don't want to do any, you know, core training or anything that's going to, you know, involves using my abdominal muscles until I'm sure that they're healed. I don't want to injure myself. I have been walking lots since I've had Camden. I try and get out of the house at least once a day, do either go for a walk, do something. But with the winter months, I'm not quite sure how well that's going to go because I don't like going outside in the cold, and it being Canada, it's freezing, so we'll have to see. I left Camden for the first time actually a week ago. I'm currently doing Invisalign. I've been doing Invisalign for like ever, but I had to go for another scan because when I was pregnant my gums were swollen and I wasn't able to wear my elastic. So I went for a scan and they can take a while, so I didn't want to bring Camden with me, and the appointment was made in the afternoon. Stupidly, I did that when I was pregnant, and so my mom came up and watched him and I left him. I was gone for about 2 hours, which took way longer than I anticipated, and I was so sad and I was so nervous. I kept like thinking that I forgot him somewhere and I was worried about him, and I knew that my mom was taking good care of him, but it was really scary. And Connor and I are going on a date night on Saturday. We're gonna go to dinner and a play. The first time since Camden's been born, and I'm really nervous about that. Again, like my mom's gonna be watching him. I know he's gonna be okay, but it's scary. You know, he's my little baby and I don't like leaving him. So at 7 weeks postpartum, I feel pretty much back to myself. I mean, my clothes not fitting entirely obviously, you know, reminds me that, you know, I still have a way to go, but things like my breast size, as long as I'm breastfeeding and I can't control that, I should say I haven't had any issues with breastfeeding in terms of infections or anything like that. He was kind of a natural, latched on relatively easily, and I thankfully haven't had any concern. Fingers crossed it remains that way. So as long as I'm breastfeeding, there's not really much I can control about it. I do have a fair amount of stretch marks that I got towards the end of my pregnancy. I had lots on my thighs and my butt pretty much from right in the beginning. Like I said, they did grow substantially when I was pregnant, and then towards the end I started getting some on my belly. So I still do have some. It is what it is. Stretch marks are kind of whatever. Will I be getting in a 2-piece anytime soon? I don't know. I more want the line to go away than anything else. And obviously for my stomach to be a little bit flatter again, but this body made this beautiful baby, so what's not to be thankful for, you know? Alright guys, thanks for watching my 7-week postpartum update. I will hopefully be back soon with Camden's 2-month update. I would like to do a nursery tour, just missing one piece of furniture. And then, I don't know, I need some ideas of other content to shoot because being at home is weird and I need something to do with my time. So, subscribe to my channel, like this video, all that fun stuff, and until next time, bye. Side note, my hair looks absolutely horrible. This has been my new mom hair because I A, don't have time to ever do my hair, but B, my hair is so dry and frizzy. It got really dry and frizzy while I was pregnant, and it's a million times worse now during postpartum period. So I don't know what to do to fix it. If you have any suggestions, please let me know, and don't hate on me for my horrible hair.